What's up, guys? Welcome to this latest Root of All Angel review brought to you by yours truly, me, Angel, of course. And today we're going to be discussing the film The Northman. Is this Viking epic everything Robert Eggers promised? Well, let's find out. Prince Amleth is on the verge of becoming a man when his father is brutally murdered by his uncle, who then kidnaps the boy's mother. 2 decades later, and Amleth is now a Viking who raids Slavic villages, pillages homes, and of course, murders innocents. However, he soon meets a seamstress who reminds him of his vow: save his mother, kill his uncle, avenge his father. This is The Northman. The Northman was directed by Robert Eggers and stars Alexander Skarsgård, Anya Taylor-Joy, Nicole Kidman, and Ethan Hawke. For me, this film was really sort of a blind viewing. Having seen one teaser online when it was first announced, I knew right from the get-go that this is a film I really needed to see. Having been really into dark fantasy lately through my playthroughs of Elden Ring, DS3, and reading the Berserk manga, this film was sort of a culmination of all those interests, and after viewing it, I'm going to need a break from all that stuff. The best way I can describe this film without spoiling it entirely is very raw, and I don't mean Monday nights. There are really a few instances in this film where you kind of sit there at the beginning especially and ask yourself, what am I really in for? We see the main character, Amleth, played by Alexander Skarsgård, really lost in a sense. We kind of see him lost, really, because he's joined this Viking collective where they are raiding villages, burning down innocent people, and doing all these really horrible things. And you never really see him do it per se, but he's a part of the group and he's allowing it to happen. And you can tell this is really not who he is as a person, and he's extremely lost in what he's doing. And he's kind of lost his way and lost any sense of his humanity, really, and really his motivations in life. And they really show this through scenes where he is, right before they raid the village, by the way, he's with these group of guys, and they're covered in these wolf skins. And they're doing this ritual where they're basically transforming into werewolves. Not literally, but you could tell in their mind to hype themselves up. They're all on drugs. They're all super hyped up. It's really intimidating, really scary, and really funny at times. I don't know about you, but seeing a group of half-naked men rip off metaphorical flesh and act like wolves is pretty fucking hilarious. And this is really common with this director, especially Robert Eggers. He's directed films like The Witch, The Lighthouse, all movies that really use visual storytelling to get their narrative beats across to the audience. And that really says something about the director, and I really appreciate that and wish more movies would do that. We don't need dialogue to really move a story across all the time. Sometimes you can just tell how a person feels by looking at them through their body language, and this film is no different, especially at the beginning of the film. And I really appreciate this style of storytelling because it really commands the viewer to pay attention and watch the movie. You know, you're not looking at your phone, you're not having conversations really, you're kind of really digesting the movie visually through your eyes, and you're really embracing everything that's going on in the movie without actually hearing a word of dialogue, which I appreciate. And he does this in this film particularly with the fantasy elements. For the most part, this film is extremely grounded in reality. Amleth, most of the characters, I say most because there's some characters that kind of like, you don't know if they're mystical or whatever, but they never really have like outright powers. You know what I mean? Like no character is having flaming swords or like shooting lightning out of their hands or anything like that. It's all really based in reality, and you can tell it's a part of his religion and the Viking Norse mythology and their religion. And I'm not really well versed in the Viking religion aspects or anything like that at all. But I do appreciate this film's attempt at kind of showing that without actually having it be a crutch or anything for the film or the narrative beats or anything like that. It's just an added layer to the complexity of our main character and the overall story. And as I said, the Viking religion is heavily felt in this movie. We see many rituals, especially at the beginning, where Amleth is becoming a man. They dabble in some really weird shit that I really don't want to spoil. But there is one scene in particular where after burning a village, and this is not a big spoiler, but after burning a village and raiding it or whatever, Amleth is kind of sitting there wondering, like, what am I really doing here? And he goes into the house where a bunch of innocents were locked in and burned by his fellow Vikings. And he comes across probably one of the stranger cameos in this movie, Bjork. And she's really Wiccan looking, looks like Malachi Black from AEW, has a cool headdress on. super demonic looking, and she's basically a witch and tells him like, look, this isn't you. I know that. And basically, you know why you're here. You know what your real goal is in life. It's to go back home, kill your uncle, and save your mother. And that's where really our story picks up. But it does it in a way where she kind of shows up and then she disappears. And it's kind of played like, did it really happen? Is it in his head? We don't get a clear answer. However, I thought that was a really clever way of introducing some of these mythology elements to the story. It also helps that this film is heavily based on Hamlet, where there's some supernatural elements in that. So I think it kind of borrows from that, but it really lends itself well to this particular story of the Northman. There's one instance in this film, however, where our main hero must get an item, and he does it, and it's a really cool scene that's like, is this really happening or is this in his head? And unfortunately, we get a clear answer where we find out it was in his head. And I don't know, I really kind of wish that was more ambiguous, and it kind of just like left it alone. Like he got the item by doing this really cool feat and just kind of like leaving it to the audience interpretation. But, you know, I think the director anyway wanted to remind audiences like, hey, this is based in reality, and this is just showing how devout our hero is to his Viking ancestry. And kind of going back to the visual storytelling aspects of this, other than the, you know, character movements and the motivations and the body language and all that stuff at the beginning, this film is beautiful. It is so visually stunning, and it's probably Robert Eggers' best film visually that I've seen anyway. You can really feel the waves crashing on boats in the middle of storms. You can feel how cold it is. You can feel how hot it is when they get to some more volcanic areas in the film. Just the environment in this movie is just breathtaking. And I want to say that most of the film was filmed practically. And I want to say most of the film was. But there are a few scenes at the end of the movie where you're just like, no way, that's clearly CGI, because they would die if they were in that scenario. But other than that, still, CGI, whatever, not CGI. Beautiful set design, beautiful film. A+, watch it on the biggest screen you can and turn the lights off. That's how you really get immersed in this film. As for the cast of this film, I mean, what can I say? I mean, it's Alexander Skarsgård. Anya Taylor-Joy can do no wrong in my eyes. Willem Dafoe has a weird cameo. Not really a cameo. He has a few scenes in the movie. It's more than a cameo. Let me show some respect. But he plays one of the weirdest characters I've ever seen in a movie. Straight up. Just a very strange, unsettling character that's good. The best way I could describe him, he's like Rafiki from The Lion King, but like Viking. Really unsettling, really cool, and you can tell Willem Dafoe just loves playing weirdos, and it's great. Love the guy. And Nicole Kidman's performance at the end of the movie particularly really was a highlight for me. At the beginning of the movie, it's pretty pedestrian. Obviously, they show her at the beginning with Hamlet as a child, and you know she's Nicole Kidman doing her thing, whatever. But at the end of the movie, toward the end of the third act anyway, she really shows her acting chops and reminds everyone of why she is an A-list actor and always has been. And I think she's really underrated in a lot of aspects. I think she should be more appreciated. It's like everyone knows she's an A-list actor, but I don't think really people appreciate her like actual acting chops. Also, I found it really ironic because I went to go see the film at an AMC theater, and right before the film it plays, you know, the cinema national anthem now, basically, or the Pledge of Allegiance rather, where it shows Nicole Kidman talking about how movies are beautiful and life-changing and they inspire us and all that stuff. And, you know, it's just like, it's pretty ironic seeing that and then 20 minutes in seeing Nicole Kidman in a film. But I don't know, just thought that was pretty cool. Man, I really cannot say enough good things about The Northman. It's everything as advertised and then some. If I did have any real criticism of the film, it is that probably it drags toward the end, or toward the middle rather, leading into the end. It's definitely needed to build up toward the climax of the film, which I'm not going to knock entirely, because that's how storytelling is. There's ebbs and flows to it. But toward the middle, there's a few scenes that I'm like, all right, did we really need this? I don't know. It could have moved the story forward in other ways, in more entertaining ways maybe. But regardless, I cannot say enough good things about this movie. I really loved it. Visually stunning. Acting is top notch. Violence is brutal. weird imagery, the blending between fantasy elements and reality are done to perfection, in my opinion. This film is everything you'd want in a Viking film and everything you'd want in an epic classic. Really takes you back to the time of films like Gladiator, and even before that with, those old 60s movies with warriors and going on quests and things like that. It really takes you back to that time where that was the blockbuster and, not the superhero film. And that's something I really enjoyed and, kind of reminded me of days gone by. But like I said, a lot of the, slow paced building toward the end really picks up in one of my favorite scenes where Amleth is basically being a stealth assassin, doing all these mystery killings of soldiers, poisoning people, doing all this like basically sabotaging guerrilla warfare kind of stuff. And the king or his uncle or whatever believes that, it's an evil spirit coming to attack him for, I guess, the sins of his past or whatever. And that was really cool. It kind of going back to where I was talking about blending fantasy and reality elements and how people took their religion so seriously back then, to the point where they thought that evil spirits were coming after them because their soldiers were dying and put in weird, very haunting body mutilation images, basically. I think a scene that really basically sums up this movie for me was probably the ending scene. This the most testosterone-filled nonsense you'll ever see. Just two guys duking it out in the middle of a volcano that they call the Gates of Hell. Just so absurd, so ridiculous, so unbelievable. Just overall badassery going on in this scene. And basically sums up the movie perfectly. Raw, yelling, brutal, just a good time. Just shit I really enjoy. It's a really good time as far as action movies go. And I don't really even want to call this movie an action movie. There are action elements in it. Clearly, it's called The Northman. It's about Vikings, obviously. But it's more about journey that we see our character go on. Toward the end of the movie, you really start to feel for him. You feel tired. You feel like you were in his shoes, and this movie kind of does leave you drained toward the end. It does feel longer than it is. It is 2 hours and 17 minutes, which is pretty long, but there's longer movies out there. But you really feel toward the end of the movie like you've been on this journey with him, and you just want it to end. And I'm saying that in the most positive way possible. This is a film that is not for the faint of heart. It's not an easy view. You kind of just have to really be in the mood to watch it. Will I probably watch this again? Probably on DVD when it comes out, or if I find it on Netflix or HBO Max, whatever the case, wherever they'll drop it. Yeah, I'll probably watch this again. Would I probably sit down and watch the whole thing again? No, but it's one of those films that you should experience it at least once. Just put away your phone, sit down, watch the film for what it was, and really kind of digest what Robert Eggers has given us. And he's giving us fantastic movies. Cannot wait for his latest Nosferatu film coming out shortly. So we're looking forward to seeing all that. It's really sort of a bummer. This film didn't really do as well as expected in the box office, despite the star power of this movie, despite the name of the director. It didn't do that well. And that's really a shame because I really want to see movies like this supported. These big epic movies with top actors, top actresses, whatever you want to call them. Epics, having complex stories with practical effects and just an overall unapologetic style to storytelling that isn't the norm. And I want to see more of that. And it's a shame that films like Morbius, which is fucking garbage, makes a shit ton of money. And then this film is just kind of like, yeah, a few people saw it and it was good, but it didn't make, all of the money. And granted, is it for everyone? Is it everyone's cup of tea? No, it's not. I'm going to be honest with you. If you don't like brutal, scary Vikings or whatever, you're probably not going to like this movie. You're probably going to be like, this is stupid or just not my jam, which is completely understandable. Totally get that. Totally respect that. But to see like the effort put in this movie and just to see the story of it and how complex the characters were, and I don't know, man, like I just want to see more movies like this that just aren't copy paste of every single movie I've seen before. Just done in really cool styles. It basically this adapted Hamlet, but in its own way. And it was done beautifully. And it's a shame that this movie didn't make more money, is all I'm saying. And I'm not going to go into a rant about anti-MCU, anti-Disney or whatever. You guys know me. I fucking love those movies. I love those big blockbuster, stupid movies. But, you know, those films aren't killing the film industry, by the way. They're, in fact, helping it. They're fucking pumping out a ton of money for these studios. But it's hurting these smaller movies. And smaller, but I'm saying that they're not Disney or Marvel or a big superhero movie. It's hurting these films, and it's a real shame. That being said, like, that's kind of the reason why I stopped reviewing Marvel movies. I stopped reviewing MCU movies, superhero movies, other than the Batman, because it just kind of felt like its own thing. And I'm a big Batman fan. I'm a stan, obviously. But, you know, I found myself basically saying the same thing over and over again about those movies. And it was just like, yeah, like, these movies are good. The action's great. Visually, it's beautiful, but it looks the same as every other Marvel movie I've seen. And it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks that, you know, we're at a point where these movies are suffering now. And there's just a lack of originality, which is why I really like Robert Eggers. I really like his work. His films are not for everyone. They're definitely strange and weird. But we need more directors like that to kind of keep pushing the boundaries of filmmaking and keep on pushing what is a good movie, basically, and keep on experimenting. Just don't stick to the same formula. And all I'm saying is give movies like this a chance. Give smaller indie movies a chance. Give smaller contained storylines a chance. Just give those movies a chance, because those are way better, way more profound than any MCU, any Marvel movie, any Star Wars movie, any DC comic movie, hell, even any Batman movie. Those are where the real stories are through the human experience. And I really wish people, I don't know, that's just my take. I really wish people just experienced those more. But I digress. That being said, if you guys wondering what score I give The Northman, I give it a 5 out of 5, a Root-tacular, of course. And thank you guys for checking out this review of The Northman. And for more reviews, follow Root of All Angel on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram, where you can ask me direct questions, share opinions, and trust me, I'd love to hear them. That's all for now, and take care. Skull.